Welcome back into this tutorial. If you have not seen the previous two videos, I would advise you go back into the video and check them out, and before you can follow along in this, so you can know what we've done so far. So for this tutorial, we're going to do our scene setup before texturing. So we're going to start with plane. Then we're going to increase this plane, scale it up T, and just scale this up to do our setup. Then I'm going to go out. So now for me to make this fast, I'm going to temporarily disable my 4 so that I will be fast, my scene will be fast. Okay, I may not even disable it, I could just hide it here. So it's still active, but it's just not seen in the viewport. So what we're going to do is we're going to NB to check this information. We can also move this down such that it doesn't get, so that my object doesn't go penetrating the floor. So I'm going to have this, bring this up much than we have, then bring a bend deformer. Look at the bend deformer and change this value. You can see the way it goes. So I will need to scale this down because I want the bend. Hold down shift to do this so that we have it constrained at night. So if we bring the bend deformer as a child of the plane and zero out this, then go to the object section, click on this, fit to parent, fit this to parent, then we want this to be 90. Now I think fitting to parents didn't really do much, so we would have just scaled this down, reduce the Y size to, let's say, 100. So we have that. I think 100 is too small. We could go with 500. Let's say 1000. So what I'm trying to get is to have this round background, so we could go away with 2000. Then what we'll do is just select this plane, size it up, and do the same thing here. Then move it backwards so it doesn't have any interaction with this object. So that is the first thing. The next thing is to start setting up our lights, and we can create a texture for that later, but let's set up our light. In this tutorial we're going to create a texture for the background. So once we have this set, if I check this NA, and I think this is smooth enough, and if not, what we'll do is just increase the subdivision, let's say 40. We check this should be fine. 60, I don't think this is needed, so this can be 10. I don't think that is too much subdivision is needed here, so this is fine. So we have this, we could just bring this sideways here, NA. So if I zoom into this place, so this is what I am looking for. So the background is set. The next thing, so I can create my camera here, make sure my camera is set. Also change this value to 80. Now what 80 does, just changes the focal length, it does not change the position of the camera. So if I come to this object S, you notice what happens. If I go to the camera and change this value to the 36, notice it doesn't change the position, it's just the focal length of this object, how wide and shallow it is. That's just what it does. So it seems as if it's very close, so it's not actually close. So what we can do is just to bring this over and bring it backwards until we have that's framed. So we can bring this backward a little bit. So we have that. Okay, so I think that is set. So the next thing is start setting. So I can add a protection tag to this. Right click on the camera, Cinema 4D tags, you see protect. So I cannot move out of this camera. I can't orbit or do anything. So once we have that, the next thing is start setting up our lights. So I'm going to start with an area light. Bring the area light upwards, rotate it downwards. So 90. Then I can scale this up. This is going to be the light that will give detail to the shape of this object and all that. So then what we'll do is go to the lights, come to general, make it soft shadow, and go to detail. I definitely want it to show in reflection, and add a fall off, inverse square, physical, then bring this down. Just increase the fall off until it gets to this place. So you have that. So that's the first light to give detail to this object. So if I go into this section, you have the edge of the object being defined and all that. So the next thing is to set our environment. So we'll go to sky. The sky is set. Then we'll come into this place, go into our preset. Now I'm using studio versions. If I go to HDRI, I have some HDRI here. So I'm going to drag this studio HDRI, or I could just choose, I want to have a feel of outdoor feel, so not studio. So let's say this, for instance. So bring this HDRI texture to this sky and double click here, go to the illumination, check this polygon light, then go to the editor. This is not really necessary, the editor, but this illumination is important. Then we have that set. The next thing is to set our key light. So go to area lights, bring this here. So the key light, I want the key light to be somewhere here, so you can have the interaction. Don't forget the 4 is somewhere here. So if I activate this 4, you notice we have the 4 here. So I want the light hitting it from here, so it casts a little bit of shadow towards the side. So that's why I'm going to bring the key light somewhere here. So I'm going to get rid of the 4 again, so I can work fast. So I'm going to bring this over to this side, the light, take it up, rotate it, and let it just face that object that you have. Alright, so the next thing is to definitely, under our detail, we want to show in reflection, add an inverse square, fall off, bring this up a little bit, not too much, just up to this place. Then we come here, make it an area light, so we can increase this to, let's say, 120 or even 150. So we see the definition. So this is very dark, so we can bring this up a little bit. So we have that. And for this lights here, for the, so let's start naming it. This is the overhead light. This is the key light. So for the overhead light, we could just bring this down to 670. So we have the harshness coming from this side. So let's still bring this back to, let's say, 50. All right. 40, let's try that. So we are having a sense that the bulk of the light is coming from this direction, and we have the shadow here. So now if we get rid of this and try to render this, you are going to notice that everything falls off. So let's just render, do a fast render here. Everything falls off to darkness here. So you can see you have total darkness here, and we need to make room for compensation for this. We should not have a total darkness since we are not going to be using a global illumination, so we need to make compensation for that. So what we're going to do is create a point light or a normal light, then we move it downwards here, just somewhere here. Move the light here. So but for this light, it's going to be the intensity is going to be very small, so we bring this to, let's say, 30, so it doesn't get so much. Let's say 40. Then we can make this soft shadow, not area, and maybe we were going to have a tint of blue to that effect here. Then for this area key light, maybe a tint of yellow. That's too much, so something like that. So if we do a region render somewhere here, you should have a little bit detail here, so you can see detail here. All right, so that is the purpose for that. So that is just it for the lighting and everything here. So for us to talk about this other one, I'm going to talk about lighting this and texturing this object here. So once I'm done texturing this, the next tutorial we're going to texture this main object. So for me to texture this object is a very simple one. So I'm going to double click here, create a material, put it on the sphere, on the cloner actually. So once you have it on the cloner, we double click. We need to change the color. So the color for this, we want to have a random color. If you look at that, or you could just use a particular color. So in the other tutorial I used a greenish color, so we could just use any color we want. So let's say we want to have this color. Then we will go to our luminance, and on our luminance we're going to go to the effects, go to Subsurface Scattering, and for the Subsurface Scattering, if you go into the Subsurface Scattering, what we're going to do is we can add any of these presets here, maybe a potato preset or any of this. So now if you notice, the main color for this object is yellow. I want to have a kind of reddish color inside the object, just like when you cut the object in two, you are going to have a reddish color. So for me to do that, potato will not work because the color for potato is this. So if we go to ketchup, we're going to have this, and you already see the effect here. So instead of you having the whole yellow color which you have here, if you start adding this, you have this. So the next thing we're going to do is increase this strength, so let's say 250. So we have more of the effect of this subsurface on this object. Then this path length, the way it works is the higher the value, the less information is going to be, the less detail is going to be, but the lower the value, the more detail is going to be, and you're going to be having a sense of that. So what I do is change this to, let's say, 2 or 1. So for the purpose of this tutorial, we're going to bring this to 3 for speed. Then we will go to multiple, then change this sample density to 50. It also reduces the render time, but you really don't see any difference in this. So then for the reflectance, I'm going to delete what I have, add a GGX. Then for the GGX, I'm going to go to the layer for now, add a dielectric, and we have that effect here. So what I'm going to do is for the roughness, I'm going to increase the roughness so it's a little bit glossy. But for me to break some of these effects, I don't want to have everything. I want to have some effect like torches and all that. So I have a texture. If you go to this roughness, you could just download some texture online. You go to Google, type grunge texture, and you have different texture you can add. So I have a texture, I have some textures here that I can add into it. So this is the one I actually used for that. You can see a bit of fingerprints and all that. So I will just drag this texture to the roughness texture field here. I don't want to save this, so that gets added to this, and I would want to increase this roughness so you see the effect even more than that. So another thing I would do is I'll go to this attenuation, change it to additive, and maybe bring this down a little bit because I'm beginning to see this roughness too much. So that is what you did that today. So for me to change this, you can notice everything is consistent. I want to have a form, I want to have a field that a colorization field whereby some will be very yellow and some will be less yellow, just a hue of yellow color. So that can be done in the color channel. Instead of me having this yellow, I can add, go to the effects, add variation. So variation will add variation to this object, but if you go into the variation, what we'll have is you have random colors, and that is not what we want. We want to have variation of this color, this yellowish color. So if I go to this, look at the values, we have 61, 31 and 83. So if we go into this variation, effects will come down to this place, change this random color mode from normal to replace. Then you don't see the effects. What we have in is replacing it with this color, but we don't want to have this color, we want to have this gradient field. So what I do is we reduce the random color to 0 and the gradient blend to 100. So it takes the gradient and work on that. So we'll go into this color. Don't forget this is 61, 31 if I'm correct, and 83. Am I correct? So let's see that. 61, 31, 83. Alright, I think I have retentive memory. But I want to colorize this the more. So I'm going to bring this up to have a more colored effect here. Then I will do that effect here, add that 61, 31 and 83 here. So we have the fading from this yellowish color to this other color. So maybe this is desaturated, so I want to saturate it more. So you see the effect here. So what will happen is that you have a variation of color ranging from this to a shade of yellow. Alright, so that is how that can be done. And if I'm to render this section now, you're going to see that effect here. So before that, I think that is basically what I did for this object here. So if I get rid of this light, we don't need this anymore. So let's try and do a test render region here, somewhere here, and let's see. So it's going to calculate more, so I'm going to pause this because we now have subsurface here. Alright, so you see what we get. You see some of this and some of that and all that. So that is how that can be done. So if I do a final render here, and let me just change the key light. I think the key light is too much, so we could go with 30, and the overhead lights can be 30. Then this other one will be, let's say, 20. So if we do a final render here, I'm just going to get back. Okay, before that, if you render that, you're still going to have all these effects. So what we'll do is add another light, and this light is going to be the ambient light. So all you need to do for the ambient is just to activate this ambient illumination. It's going to be very much, so you can just bring this to, let's say, 60. So you have this effect. So you don't really need shadowing. Do you need maybe soft shadow? So you have that. So let's see final render for this. Then I'm going to pause this and come back. So if I go to my render setting, I'll change this and reduce this just for test render purpose. Now we're not here for render settings, just want to do a test render for that. So alright, you can see this is already taking, the tutorial is already taking so long. I don't like that. So you see that this light is too much, the ambient light that I added is too much. So what I can do is just go back to the ambient light, reduce it to, let's say, 20, and that should do that. And for, you notice we have shadow here. I don't want this shadow to be cast here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this plane, right click on it, add simulation, cinema 4D tag, go to compositing, then I'm going to uncheck this receive shadow so it doesn't receive any shadow, and let's do another render and be back. Alright, so you can see what we had before and now. So we've gotten rid of that just by doing that, and also you can see the lighting here. Just by reducing that, we still have all this information. So I think we're going to end the tutorial here because this is longer than I expected. So in the final tutorial, we're going to do this texturing of this object and render this whole thing. So do have a wonderful day. Bye.